Hardly worth sending now, boy.
But those poor people. They're expecting their messages to go. You know, Mr. Marconi, Phillips is dead.
How are your feet?
They've been better. I haven't been out of the cabin since the night the Titanic sank.
Now, Harold, I want you to go through, minute by minute, what happened as she sank.
Yes, sir. I was standing by Phillips, the chief operator, telling him to go to bed, when the captain put his head in the cabin.
We struck an iceberg, and I'm having an inspection made to see what damage has been done to us. You'd better get ready to send out the call for help, but don't do it until I tell you.
We could hear terrific confusion outside, but there was not the least thing to indicate that there was any trouble. The wireless was working perfectly.
Send a call for assistance.
Which call?
The Regulation International call for help. Just that.
Then the captain was gone. Phillips began to send CQD. He flashed away at it, and we choked while he did so. The Carpathia answered our signal. We told her our position and said we were sinking by the head. The operator went to tell the captain, and in 5 minutes returned and told us that the captain of the Carpathia was putting about and heading for us. Our captain had left at this time, and Phillips told me to run and tell him what the Carpathia had answered. I did so, and I went through an awful mass of people to his cabin. I came back and heard Phillips giving the Carpathia fuller directions. Phillips told me to put on my clothes. Until that moment I forgot that I was not dressed. I went to my cabin and dressed. I noticed that the list forward was increasing. Phillips told me the wireless was growing weaker. The captain came and told us our engine rooms were taking water and that the dynamos might not last much longer. And how poor Phillips worked through it right to the end, I don't know. He was a brave man. I will never live to forget the work of Phillips for the last awful 15 minutes. I went out on deck and looked around. The water was pretty close up to the boat deck. I remember that every member of the crew had a special life belt and ought to know where it was. I remembered mine was under my bunk. I went and got it. I saw Phillips standing out there, still sending away, giving the Carpathia details of just how we were doing. As Phillips was sending the message, I strapped his lifebelt to his back. Every minute was precious, so I helped him all I could. From aft came the tunes of the band. Then there was Autumn. Phillips ran aft, and that was the last I ever saw of him. I went to the place where I'd seen a collapsible boat on the boat deck, and to my surprise I saw the boat and the men still trying to push it off. I went up to them, I had hold of a rowlock, and I went off with it. Next I knew I was in the boat. But that was not all. I was in the boat, and the boat was upside down, and I was under it. And I remember realizing I was wet through, that whatever happened, I must not breathe, for I was underwater. I knew I had to fight for it, and I did. How I got out from under the boat, I do not know, but I felt a breath of air at last. There were men all around me, hundreds of them. The sea was dotted with them, all depending on their lifebelts. I felt I simply had to get away from the ship. She was a beautiful sight. The ship was gradually turning on her nose, just like a duck does that goes down for a dive. I had one thing on my mind: to get away from the suction. The band was still playing, and I guess they all went down. They were playing Autumn then. I was very cold. I saw a boat of some kind near me and put all my strength into an effort to swim to it. It was hard work. I was all done when a hand reached out from the boat and pulled me aboard. It was our same collapsible. There was just room for me to roll on the edge. I lay there, not caring what happened. Somebody sat on my legs. They were wedged in between slats and were being wrenched. I suppose it was 150 feet away when the Titanic, on her nose, with the after quarter sticking straight up in the air, began to settle slowly. When at last the waves washed over her rudder, there wasn't the least bit of suction I could feel. She must have kept going just as slowly as she had been. Some splendid people saved us. They had a right side up boat. At last the Carpathia was alongside and the people were being taken up a rope ladder. Our boat drew near, and one by one the men were taken off of it. Well, the way the band kept playing, it was a noble thing. The way Phillips kept sending after the captain told him his life was his own and that he was to look out for himself. Those are the two things that stood out in my mind amongst the rest.